All right, let's bring in our guest, a 4-year starter at Princeton. Yep, OTAs never affected this guy's GPAs. Former NFL lineman and current CBS and Westwood One analyst, and the host of the Even Money betting podcast, Win or Lose. This man always shakes hands after the game. Our good pal Ross Tucker is here. What's happening, Ross?
Sal, what's up, man? How are you? Been a while.
I know. I feel like you've been ducking me. Woj on his way out reported that you were ducking me, but then you finally decided to talk. So I don't know. However it is, we have you here now. So that's exciting.
Yeah, man. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay. So you called, I want to talk about this handshake thing real quick because you called that Colorado State game last week. Shedeur Sanders, obviously quarterback Colorado, refuses to shake hands with, what's his name? Braden
Fowler
Nicolosi?
Nicolosi.
Yes. Okay. Some kind of Instagram beef. You didn't have that as a player, did you? Instagram beef with anyone? You would always shake hands, right?
We never had, well, a few things here. So first of all, there was no social media when I played. I take that back. I think maybe at the end of my career, Facebook had just like started. That was like the big social media. But you know what's funny? Each head coach always shakes each other's hand after the game. That's always been standard. Mm-hmm. And then more recently, I feel like the quarterbacks always shake each other's hand. You never see like both left guards go up to each other after the game to shake their hand. Like, what are they going to even say? Like, hey, nice blocking. Like, it doesn't work that way. Colorado, man, there's a lot of drama around it. I mean, it's unbelievable doing that game Saturday night, Sal. Yeah. I cannot tell you how polarizing they are. I mean, you probably already know, but every tweet I had for like 5 hours was stop kissing Deion's butt. You're a bootlicker of Hunter and Shedeur Sanders, or it was you hate Coach Prime. You're a hater. Like there's nothing in between. But
all right, so which is it?
For me?
Yeah, for you.
Neither. It means I'm a good broadcaster.
And by the way, I watched that whole game and I heard you and you were great like you always are. And now I'm going to get tweets from people. Why are you kissing Ross Tucker's ass? I'm like, no. Wait till I go after him later. No. So, but yes, at the end, that is because he's done this twice. He ran it up on North Dakota State a couple of weeks ago, Deion, right? They could have killed the clock. They almost cost them the game.
Well, and
that I don't think is a rivalry, right? So that would have to be padding stats. In that instance,
yeah, he said that it was supposed to be a run, but that Shedeur is such a great teammate and such a great kid that he checked to a pass to try to get this guy a touchdown who hadn't gotten a touchdown yet in the game.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you can say that. But then you can't say that when you do it the next time, right? And I guess Deion more or less admitted after the game they were trying to get Hunter 100 yards. They wanted to make sure he had over 100 yards receiving. So I guess maybe it was more the stat padding and not the rivalry thing. So I don't know. I think that sounds okay until somebody gets hurt and you're thought of as like making one of the worst coaching decisions in college football history.
Do you think if he has 2 of the 4 of the Heisman hopefuls up there, wherever they do it in December, maybe he feels like he did his job there?
I think it's very clear that he's trying to put his son in the best position possible, or maybe he just wants to put Shedeur in the best chance possible statistically for NFL draft and all that kind of stuff.
I'm with you on all of it. And Travis Hunter, 30-1 odds to win the Heisman. I think these two-way players.
Is he really?
Arch Manning is ahead of him at 28-1. He's going to get one more start probably.
Wow. That
doesn't make any sense.
That is surprising to me because I think there's going to be a drumbeat. I know Louis Riddick has said it. I'm saying it. He's the best player in college football. He deserves it.
Yeah.
But if they don't win enough games, I guess not enough people will pay attention. I don't know.
Let me ask you this. You are off this week. Saturday, right? This is your first and only of the week, right? Of the year.
Yeah, it's just a kind of a weird quirk in the schedule. I used to have a game every weekend because I was doing a lot of games on CBS Sports Network on the cable channel. I can't. So
what are you going to do? You're going to show up to Navy Memphis out of habit, or you're just going to sleep in? This is great for you.
No, you know what's so funny? Friday night I'm going to Post Malone. I never get to do something like that during football season. And then Saturday, you'll appreciate this, Sal. I got a buddy whose son plays for Penn State. I live like an hour and 10 minutes from Penn State. I'm going to Penn State, Kent State.
Oh.
I haven't decided yet whether or not yet I'm going to lay the 49.5 with Penn State. But I told my buddy I'm going to get my 5 years worth of tailgating in this weekend.
You're going to gain about 7.5 pounds, by the way. not like Post Malone, who's like a $110. But here's my next question, which leads in perfectly. You do, which I love, the press box food. You'll often take pictures of what they're serving in the press box for whatever game you're calling. And I love it, except when there's no deli mustard available. I feel for you. But which is the best and which is the worst in your estimation? Let's go college.
Yeah, so it's crazy how popular this has become. It's hashtag tuck spreads.
Yeah.
You know, I do it every game I go to on social media. So it's at Ross Tucker NFL. People want to see what the press box food is. I'll say this, Sal, and I mean this 99% sincerity. It is absolutely, at least in the pro level, it is absolutely a reflection of the organization. Absolutely. For years, the Jags were terrible. Their press box food. The Commanders have always been the worst, always. And by the way, right when they got new ownership last year, it got upgraded. I'm always very partial to, on the pro side, to Green Bay because the game starts at noon. So you get there like at 9 a.m., they got 2 omelet stations. So I hit up the omelet. Then I go down on the field, talk to some players, coaches, whatever, come back up. They have the best salad bar in the league. So I get a salad so I feel decent about myself. They always have pulled pork. So I get a whole plate full of pulled pork and I put they call it pack and cheese.
Yeah.
I put mac and cheese on top. Like my philosophy is only like toddlers eat mac and cheese by itself. Mac and cheese is a topping that needs to be mixed in with a protein at this point in my life. Then at halftime, halftime only 12 minutes in the NFL, right?
Right.
2 brats. Usually one with the bun, usually one without. Wisconsin to Green Bay, it's like the spicy mustard capital of the world.
The best.
They'll have like 10 different spicy mustards available. I'll put them all out. It's incredible. Green Bay's number 1. Love it.
That's great. And wow, what you said earlier about like how it's a reflection of the organization, how good the food is. I feel like you should make a power rating. Now people put their power ratings out and they're like, oh, well, my model says that this team should be favored by 1.5, but Vegas has it at 2.5. Why don't you do that one year and see if it actually works out to the benefit?
So I do grades. I'll give it like a B+ or a C- or whatever. I do a grade. So I could compile those grades throughout the entire season.
Yeah.
And then list them. It's funny because 2 things. One is people will say, I can't believe you complain about free food. I make it very clear. I'm never complaining. I'm evaluating. You'll see at times now, 2 things happen when I go to games. Number 1, the PR staffs, Sal, they're very well aware of it now. They'll put like, sometimes the Vikings, they put an extra like food station in the booth, or I'll go in and I'll start to do the video and people will be like, was that it? Was that the real one? Was that? I'm like, yeah, we think I do like 5 shots of this? Yeah, that was it. Yes, that was it. I love it.
This is great. So you've motivated them to provide good food to improve on theirs. It's that Ivy League education. You're just so smart how you duped them into this. All right, listen, I want to talk about NFL offenses. I'm not sure what happened. Some stats indicate that they're not much worse than they've been in the past, but passing touchdowns are down. Long plays are down. I think there are a lot of reasons. One of the primary reasons is defenses are more game ready, maybe early in the season than offenses, particularly offensive lines, fewer padded practices, fewer preseason games, whatever you want to say. What would you say to offensive linemen to help them get a head start on the season? Or is it, hey, tough crap, fans. This is how it's going to be for the first few weeks.
Yeah, there's nothing I can say to them. Historically, going back for years, early in the season, defense are going to be ahead of offenses. What has made that more pronounced with every passing year is that every year, Sal, there's less practice time and less preseason participation. Offense, you need repetitions. You need to develop some type of chemistry and working with each other, and they're just not getting it. Then number two, here's one reason why defense are ahead of offenses. They're obsessed with limiting explosive plays. Look at how much they play 2 deep safeties, 3 deep safeties with cover 3, even 4 deep safeties cover 4. They call it quarters or whatever. They're obsessed with not giving up explosive plays. So what happens then? You're not seeing nearly as many of the bombs or long touchdowns. So now you got to go the length of the field.
Well, but shouldn't the 2 deep safeties, and I've heard this before, and it's a good point, shouldn't it open up more mid-range completions and stuff like that? Or is it just that the 2 deep safety combined with the fact that the edge rushers are so much better now keeps everything kind of in check?
So the 2 deep safeties should mean you should be able to run the ball better, which is if you've been watching, teams are running it well. So if you're talking about from a betting perspective, I would start to lean towards running back prop bets over in terms of yards, because that's the best way to beat these multiple deep safeties and multiple guys deep is you have to run the ball, and the teams have to have the patience to run the ball.
Wow, that's great. That is great insight. The problem is we have more running back by committees now than ever, right? So if you could bet a team total over 115 rushing yards,
do they
that
have
would be.
those?
No, they don't. They don't.
Do they have
should.
Rushing attempts typically or no?
They do. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
they have rushing
I
attempts.
usually see, I see the rushing yards, but I didn't know if they had attempts.
Yeah, and the Packers, I think, ran it like 49 or 51 times last week or something. It gets crazy. Speaking of the Packers, I wanted to talk to you as a former lineman. I don't know if you saw this, but I give Malik Willis credit for winning, first of all. But Mike Meatball, show this clip here. I don't know if you saw what Packers center Josh Myers did. You did? Do you want to see it again?
Sure, I don't care.
He vomits on the ball right before a 3rd and 10, which was about to be a pass play. Instead of Malik Willis throwing it, though, he decides to take the vomit-covered ball and run it himself. And everyone's like, what is he doing? They hadn't seen what happened with the center. I agree with this mindset. What about you? Did he do the right thing?
He did do the right thing, but I have a lot of questions about this. First of all, it must have just hit Josh Myers out of nowhere, because you would think he would have thrown up somewhere other than right on the ball, number one. And then number two, I know that Willis told LaFleur after the game, Josh threw up on the ball. That's why I didn't want to throw it. I want to know at what point Willis realized that.
Wow, you're right. It seems like he could have called the timeout had he known ahead of time. I don't think he would have gotten in too much trouble for burning one there. It's like, coach, there's yak all over the ball. By the way, Josh Myers did come out with a statement. He said he was feeling fine until he put macaroni and cheese on brisket, and that you actually inspired him to do that. And that's it. That's when it all came out. So let's talk about Bryce Young for a minute, who Carolina gave up so much to get. Andy Dalton gets a start this week. Where do the Panthers go from here? Would you be surprised if Bryce Young didn't play the rest of the year?
No, I wouldn't be surprised by that. And I think Canales, number one, could tell that Bryce Young's confidence was just that shot. It was just that bad, and that it was going to be tough for him to get out of it. And number two, maybe just as importantly or more importantly, the players didn't believe in Bryce Young and didn't think he was giving them a chance to win the game.
And who else doesn't believe in him? The odds makers, because it went from Raiders -7.5 to Raiders -5.5 as the Red Rifle takes over here on
Which
Sunday.
I think, by the way, is interesting too, Sal. I was talking about this with Steve Fezzik on my show, the Even Money Betting Podcast. And I think it's interesting that's one of my favorite things, is seeing how much value the markets or the odds makers put on quarterbacks. Like, what do they think of a starting quarterback? What do they think of this guy, Bryce Young? So it is interesting that they immediately think Andy Dalton, who's been a backup now for a couple of years, is a 2-point upgrade on Bryce Young. I have to be honest with you, Sal, watching Bryce Young play these first 2 games, I think that's a little light.
Is that right?
I think Andy Dalton's probably at least 3.5 points better than Bryce Young. It's one reason why I took Carolina on the even money betting podcast for 2 units, because I think it's a toss-up game. I think not only do I think Andy Dalton makes it a toss-up game, I think the other players, knowing that they have Andy Dalton, they have a chance, and that this change has been made, I think there's a psychological edge there. You know who's not happy that Bryce Young got benched? The Raiders. That's who's not happy. They thought, oh, we're going to get another win this week. Now they're like, oh, crap. Because they know Dalton's a professional quarterback. Like, he knows what he's doing. He's going to throw the ball to the right guy, and he's pretty good.
The one thing I might be hesitant about, we don't know. We haven't seen his movement in a while, right? And when Crosby goes after you, and the Raiders, front seven looked great last week. So that could be the equalizer. But wow, you're right. I mean, it's probably between 2 and 3.5 point difference. All right, listen, Ross, before I let you go, we've got one more question for you. We call this Cuz's Conundrum. All right. This is a question I'm pretty sure you've not been asked before. Maybe you have, but here's the conundrum. You are inducted as the first member of the NFL Ivy League Hall of Fame. You get a statue in Canton, not even a bust, a statue, your own wing. It's a great honor, right? But the conundrum, Ivy League Hall of Fame for the NFL, but you now have to endure poison ivy 3 times a year, and you don't get to pick when you get it. Are you signing off?
No, I'm not. If I could pick when I got the poison ivy,
really,
then yes.
What if I changed it and you were allowed to pick the 3 times you got it? You would do it mostly in the summer before the season.
How long does poison ivy last? Typically,
let's say it lasts like 2.5 days before you knock it out.
Yeah, I would do it. There'd be times I could do it where I'd be by myself, or I could do it. I'd be at the Jersey Shore. Or I would do it. I would do it then. To be in the Hall of Fame and just have to have poison ivy 3 times a year, yeah, I would do it. But I get to pick the times.
You get to pick the times. All right. You know what? I'm going to talk to my guy, and we're going to arrange something. And I think we can come up with a nice compromise. Ross, thanks so much for being here. I always love when you're on a game and I'm watching. Thanks again for coming on, pal.
Hey, my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me, Sal.